So hello, good morning class. So we are going to start with our current affairs, which is very important for your examination syllabus of any kind of government exam. So we are going to start with the news of 23rd January 2026, and the source which we are following is of Vision IAS, as it is most reliable source according to me, and maximum kind of topics which you will see in your exam will be covered in this perfectly. So let's start our class. So first we'll see the highlights, that is the state of finance for nature 2026 has released a report. That is report is released by the UN environmental program, UNEP. Then comes your the CDS has released the military quantum mission policy framework. Then UNSC reforms model proposed by G4. Then comes your Niti Aayog releases report on green transition in cement, aluminium and MSME sectors. Then comes Commission for Air Quality Management reports on causes of air pollution in Delhi NCR region. We'll study about personality news, that is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and then at last we'll wrap this all up with some news that are in short or which are a quickies to go, right? So let's start to go in details with the news. So here comes your first news, that is State of Finance for Nature 2026 report by UN Environment Program, UNEP, right? So the report highlights a global financial imbalance skewed towards nature negative finances as comparison to nature positive. Now see, as the term you can see, nature negative means that environment is affected with the expenditure or whatever you are doing investments in the activities that are affecting environment, and a nature positive would be if the environment would also be conserved. So what is a nature positive finance? You can see the activities promoting environment conservation as well, such as the nature based solution. Okay, and the nature negative finances are investment that potentially degrade or destroy the natural infrastructure, such as the environmentally harmful subsidies, which sometimes the industries in profit based approaches, they do these kind of things. So the key highlights of report suggest that there was massive funding gap in 2023. Finance for nature negative activities reached 7.3 dollar 7.3 trillions, that is 30 times higher, while the investment in it was the nature based solution was just dollar 220 billions. So there is a huge gap, right? It is only dollar 22 dollar 220 billions, and the here it is about around dollar 7.3 trillion, that is 30 times higher, right? And then comes the public and private finance gap. That publicly if we see and privately, so private companies or private any private finance means financing or any private institute, they are more attracted or their goal is for making profits, and they usually invest their capital in high impact sectors such as fossil fuel, heavy industries, etc. Whereas the private, if we say publicly, so 90% of NBS finance is public, and private would be less. So it was also given in the report. Then comes the investment needs to meet the Rio Convention target, that is limiting the warming, that is the global warming, to 1.5% and halting biodiversity loss. Annual NBS investment must increase by 2.5 times to $571 billion by 2030. So it is also a high target to be reached by 2030. So it was seen the key recommendation are redirecting capital flows away from the nature negative activities, reforming harmful subsidies, mandating disclosure of nature related risks, expanding blended finance, de-risking the investment to mobilize capital, private capitals, right? Then comes your what is the NBS or the nature based solution. Now you know NBS leverage nature and power of healthy ecosystem to address societal challenges through actions to protect sustainable management and restore. You know, we should see means nature based solution means nature should also be considered, right? We are only seeing about our benefits, we are not seeing what kind of harm we are doing to the nature. So NBS solution are basically focusing on nature as well, that is protecting, restoring coral reefs, building greener cities, etc. What are the key initiatives of NBS? First is globally and then we come to the India's level, right? First is Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, that is GBF, aims to protect 30% of land and sea by 2030 and $500 billion per year reduction in harmful subsidies, right? Harmful subsidies are those which are given for industries that are linked with pollution or environment harmful or any kind of destruction to environment, so that should also be reduced, right? Then comes your task force on nature related financial disclosure, TNFD, a framework for businesses to report and act on nature related risks and impact. Then comes your Indian level or our country's level. What does NBS solution or the nature based solution? First is the MISTI scheme, that is for the mangrove initiative for shoreline habitats and tangible incomes aimed at mangrove plantation along with the coastal line and the salt pans. Then second is Amrit Dharohar, that is to promote conservation of Ramsar sites through community participation. Now, Ramsar site, you know that it was signed in Iraq, and it is basically conservation program for the wetlands, and it basically Amrit Dharohar is that community participation should also take place. Now, the next news or the second news that follows is the CDS released military quantum mission policy framework. So what are the key highlights? That is, first, it aims to jointless integration among the tri-services to achieve technological dominance in future battlefield to prepare for technological centric warfare. It is basically nowadays what is happening, that digital wars are happening or taking place, so army and all that is on foot, or we can say physical army is very important, but nowadays the wars are also happening, like cyber security issues arise, so this will help in preparation for that kind or cyber wars as well, right? So this is that tri-services, army, navy, or army, navy, as well as the air force. So these tri-services will integrate into the mission. Now, civil military fusion will also take place, that is aligned with the national quantum mission, like the search, so civilian researchers, the BTech students like CHC, which are into the research and all, so they could also collaborate with the government military, and they could also be a part of the military or the government and help in raising the levels of our security, right? So core domains are four critical quantum pillars. First is the quantum communication, quantum computing, quantum sensing and metrology, then is quantum material and devising. So these are the four core domains that are being focused. Now, what is the application of the quantum technology in defense, right? So, first is the secure communication. Now, quantum key distribution or the QKD uses principle of entanglement. Entanglement means that it can't be separated to create keys that are theoretically unhackable, right? Like hack nowadays, a hack or the cybersecurity threats are most utmost of concern in this era, right? So this kind of secured network would be provided that could be unhackable, right? Secure communications would be there for the military operation or defense operations, right? Then comes your quantum sensing. Now sensing and metrology is basically related to your environment, atmosphere, right? Radars and all, sometimes the traditional radars, they can't that particularly or that efficiently do the same task which an quantum sensing and metrology would do. So it would be an very advanced kind of mapping that would be provided to us with quantum sensing and metrology. Then comes your navigation, it would also be improved, no doubtly. Then comes intelligence and logistics, that is such as the can optimize the battlefield logistic, analyze vast signal intelligence data sets, power autonomous robotic system through quantum AI, right? AI means artificial intelligence, right? So quantum materials such as development of materials with adaptive properties or extreme durability for aerospace application, extreme durability of that materials. Then comes your cyber defense as well. Post quantum cryptography, that is PQC, resisting attacks by quantum computers to safeguard critical infrastructure against the quantum enabled cyber attacks. So these were the application of the quantum technology in your defense. Then comes what is actually quantum technology. Now you know that there are extremely small objects that can have both the characteristics. First is the wave characteristic and then comes your particle characteristic. So that particular extremely small object is studied or explains the quantum mechanics. So this is basically related to your physics and engineering as well, right? So this is known as the quantum technology. What are the key principles? If we say, it is like in coding 0 and 1, bits bytes. So 0 and 1 is used, but in quantum bits or the qubits, we can say there are also existence between 0 1, that is 0 and 1 will exist, but both can also exist simultaneously. So this is known as superposition. Then comes your entanglement, that is a phenomena where two particles that are linked or become linked. Intangible means which cannot be separated, right? A change in state of one instantly affects the other regardless of the distance. So obviously if they are intangible, so if there is change in state of one, the other would also be affected, but regardless of distance means if they are also away, then also the effect will be seen. So next news is about your UNSC reforms model proposed by G4. The UNSC is one of the organs of UN, right? UN is United Nations, right? So the G4 nation have presently a model for early action to restructure the UNSC or the United Nations Security Council. Now what comprises of G4? It is India, Brazil, Germany, Japan. And they support each other's bid for permanent seats in UNSC. Now UNSC establishment UN Charter as one of UN's 6 main organs holds primary responsibility for maintaining international peace and security. What is structure? 15 members are present, right? And each has one vote. 5 members are permanent members, 10 are non-permanent members. The 5 permanent are USA, UK, France, China, Russia, and each holds veto power. Then are 10 non-permanent members which are elected from General Assembly for a term of 2 years. Now, veto power is a power which any of these 5 permanent member can use, and if one says or one votes against a resolution that is being discussed, not passed, right? So if one opposes, the conversation ends or there is no further in going into the matter. That is known as veto power. So veto power is present with the 5 members. Now, the key reforms that are proposed by the G4 are expansion of council to 25 or 26 seats. That is like, now we have 15. Now they say it may be 25 seats or 26 that can be increased. 6 new members, old we have 5, so total there would be 11, and 14 to 15 non-permanent members should also be there. So a regional distribution is also given for new permanent seats elected. 2 they say from the African member state, 2 from the Asia Pacific member state, 1 from Latin America and Caribbean member state, 1 from the Western European and other member states. What is the need for reform of UNSC? First is the outdated power structure. You know that the global south and global north are there according to the income or the economy of the countries. So it has shown that reflects 1945 post-war reality that ignores the modern power shift that is interest of the global south. Now global south also it is becoming more powerful after 1945. Then comes the second need is like veto deadlock that occurs. Now, like Ukraine, Gaza, these matters were very important, but the veto power was used and nobody could further go into the matter. So this is also a need due to which they are proposing for expanding the council. So then comes your underrepresentation. Major nation like India, you see, it has a very, very capable or potential of expanding, and it also holds a very good position. But due to lack of representation in the permanent members, it is also a demand for the expansion of the UNSC. Then come financial dependence, reliance on small number of major donors, example USA, creates an budget instability, risk undue influence on the UN operation. Obviously, now USA is funding to the UN. Now if USA it says that I am withdrawing, then UN would be like, how would it function? It would be a paralyzed kind of organization. So it is very important that under these kind of situations should also be considered, and there must be a proper funding that must be arranged from other nations as well, as compared to one major donor is only playing a part, right? So these have given and recommend these needs of UNSC needs to be considered for the recommendation, as these are the issues that are to be discussed, and they can be reformed by increasing the seats in the UNSC. Now moving towards the next news. Niti Aayog releases report on green transition in cement, aluminium and MSME sector. MSME, a very, very important sector. Many questions have been asked in the UPSC and in the state PCS and many other examinations that have recently been conducted. So MSME is a topic that should also be studied in details, like what is the investment, what is the turnover, and etc. So, what is Niti Aayog? Niti Aayog came after the Planning Commission was, abolished, and then Niti Aayog, or the think tank of India, came into existence. So, the report outlined decarbonization roads for cement, aluminium, and MSME sector. What is decarbonization? It is reducing or eliminating the CO2 emissions from any economy or specific sectors. Now, carbon, it is a global house greenhouse gas, or so the targets are always to reduce these kinds of gases. So India's key targets are nationally determined, that is to reduce emission intensity of GDP by 45% by 2030. From which levels? Now this question can also be asked, that what is the base of this reduction? That is 2005 levels of this CO2s, right? And then comes your Panchamrit plan, which is going on net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2070 target. Then comes significance. What are the significance of decarbonizing these sectors? First is contribution to India's total greenhouse gas emission. Now see, cement sector, it is a major contributor, 6%. Aluminium is about 2.8%. That MSME rely on fossil fuels to meet the energy and process requirement, contributed to 135 million tons of carbon emissions in 2002. So due to their high contribution to the global house gases, there is a need of targeting these three sectors. Then mitigate export risks as well for emerging trading regulations, that is EU's CBAM. That is, EU is saying that you should reduce the carbon emissions, or eliminating or reduction or mitigating, whatever you can do to do a environmental favor, as well as EU will, if you are not reducing to that levels, what will EU do? EU will impose tariffs, and tariffs, they affect economy of a country. Like if tariffs will be more, so you have to pay more for exporting your products. So exporting, your products. So basically, to reduce your tariffs, you have to mitigate these levels. Next, we move to your Commission for Air Quality Management (CAQM) report on causes for air pollution in Delhi NCR. Now, now Delhi NCR, what is the quality of air? Like ridiculous quality of air, what we are inhaling in us. There are many reasons. Like pollution is one of the main reasons, if we see. But what does the report says here? Let us discuss. Now first, the expert report was prepared following a Supreme Court order related to MC Mehta versus Union of India case finding. So key finding of the reports were that the secondary particulate matter, that is the largest contributor, about 27% Delhi's winter pollution. Now there are two types of particulate matter. One is the primary particulate matter, and second one is the secondary particulate matter, right? PPM and secondary particulate matter. Now primary is which is directly emitted from a source, and particulate matter that has combined chemical reactions have gone through by reacting with the environment, that forms the secondary particulate matter, right? So basically, if we see CO2, O2, CO2 comes out when there is combustion takes place in excessive air, and CO comes, or carbon monoxide, when there is limiting air conditions, right? So further, these are directly coming out from your coal, right? And further, when they react with the environment, and they produce some more poisonous gases, so that would lead into the secondary particulate matter formation. Now see over here, like the secondary particulate matter, fine particles formed in atmosphere through chemical reactions of precursor gases like SO2, NOx, then NH3 or ammonia, then volcanic organic compounds, right? Example is ammonium nitrate, ammonium sulfate, and aerosols. Then comes your other major winter contributor. Then comes your transportation is largest primary source. Primary source, if we see, it is 23%, following your this secondary particular, right? Then in here it is followed by the biomass, that and biomass burning, that is 20%. Dust accounts for 15%, and the industries, they account for 9%. So if we see secondary particulate matter, it is the major contributor, and primary source is the second contributor. And in the primary source, if we see transport, and then comes your biomass, that is 20% contributor. See, dust account for 15% and industry 9%. Now the dust, like recently the Aravali areas, Aravalis were very much in news. See, the ecology first, so if we demolish or destroy, the ecology would be affected. Secondly, what would happen, that the Delhi NCR region, this is also protected by Aravalis. Now, when the Aravalis would be destroyed, so it would affect the more quality of air if the protests were not done. So it was a very good move that was made by the people, or the of the country, or any organization which were involved in the protest. So it has actually saved the area for further deterioration in the quality of air. Then comes trends in PM2 2.5 and PM10. A gradual decline and stable trends are noted in PM 2.5 and PM10. Now you know that PM 2.5 is more harmful as compared to PM10. So this is the destructible kind of particulate matter, right? However, it has been seen there is a huge gap to meet the annual national ambient air quality standards that we know, right? The transboundary pollution. Now transboundary is what, like the neighboring countries, sorry, the states, right? So the Delhi is the Delhi's neighboring state. It is actually contributing about 2/3 of Delhi's PM 2.5, that is originated outside Delhi. 2/3 of it is outside the Delhi. Then comes your seasonality. Pollution peaks during winter, mainly due to low wind speed is there, shallow planetary boundary layer, and atmospheric stagnation, which traps pollutant rather than sudden emissions spike. Now you know in the winter season what happens, cold air subsidies, or it is heavier. So there is a kind of stagnation in the atmosphere, means there is a kind of calmness, no mixing, turbulence is very less. So which favors for trapping the pollutants and rather than emission spikes. So this creates a haziness, or the more kind of density in the air pollutants. Next we see what are the recommendations. First is infrastructure, augment waste to energy plants, then installing barrier-free toll system, rationalizing environment compensation charge. Then comes your transportation reforms, a second kind of a second kind of more pollution is from your transportation. So it is like expanding electric CNGs, public transport, zero emission mobility. Then comes your governance, implementing, mandating annual action plans for NCR states to ensure accountability. So the next in news is personality in news, that is Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, from 1897 to 1945, government celebrates the Parakram Divas, that is 23rd of January, to commemorate 129th birth anniversary of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Indian nationalist leader, advocated for complete independence from British rule. Now, key contribution, you know that INC session of 1938 and 39 Haripura session, but he was an president है ना, but they after that differences arised in the INC members. So due to his nature of thinking that we want a complete freedom and agitation in his behavior, so basically differences arose in the party and he resigned. Now he wrote for Chittaranjan Das newspaper Forward. Now this is very very important information, as many of you would think that Forward was a newspaper that was started by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, but it was actually of Chittaranjan Das and he used to write for it, right? And he started his own paper that was titled Swaraj to promote independence. He escaped British House arrested in 1941, right, and sought international support from Germany, Japan during World War II. Then led INA International Army Azad Hind Fauj from 1943. Under his leadership, INA alongside the Japanese forces against British in northeast of India and Burma. He established provincial government of Free India in Imphal, then Manipur to mobilize Indians for anti-British revolt. So Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, it becomes a very very important personality and a very important with respect of your history paper, right? History section. And then you can also remember one point that Andaman and Nicobar Islands, it is also dedicated to Subhash Chandra Bose. So moving towards next, so next comes your news in short. First is the Board of Peace. So what is a Board of Peace? First let us understand. A proposed international organization, transitional governing body aimed at managing post-conflict transition, particularly in Gaza. Now see, India was invited to Board of Peace, and which is presided by mainly by the US president, but India did not attend, or it was absent. So this is, that's why in highlight that India did not attend the Board of Peace. Now it was attended by 19 countries including Argentina, Canada, Egypt, Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Then comes your Beti Bachao Beti Padhao. So it was launched in 2015 and successfully it has completed 11 years. Why did it came into existence? Because there were many objectives which we are going to study here. One second. So basically, yeah. So sorry. So basically, what was going on, it was that there were mainly objectives to improve sex ratio at birth, then ensure institutional deliveries, increase girls' secondary education enrollment by 1% plus skilling as well, 1% increase in first trimester antenatal care registration per year. Now see, this is an centrally sponsored scheme, not a central scheme or a state scheme. It is centrally sponsored scheme under Sambal vertical of the Mission Shakti, which was for women empowerment. So Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and Ministry of Education were part jointly initiative it was. Later on, what happened, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship and Minority Affairs also joined it. So it was a success because first the national sex ratio of birth, that was 918 in the year 1415, it rose to 930 in the year 2023-24. Then the institutional delivery that was targeted to be 95% or above, it was reached to 97.3 in 23-24 as compared to 61% which was in the year 2014-15. So this scheme was a success. Then comes your Election Commission of India launches the ECI Net digital platform and international conference on democracy and election management. Now the beta version of this scheme, this app was already tested in the Bihar Assembly election, which was a very good result was seen from it. So basically, a digital ecosystem of ECI is integrated, enabling end-to-end management of single unified electoral processes through a single unified platform. The world's largest electoral service platform. Key services are voter registration occurs here, electoral roll search, track your application, know your candidate, connect with election officials, then e-epic download grievances, redressal, etc. Now, significance enhances the transparency, efficiency, and real-time election monitoring. The whatever cases which are recently coming up, that there is no transparency, there is vote chori mudda going on here and there. So this all would also be solved if we use this. The real-time election monitoring will firstly, it would be cost effective as well as the money spent on so much of facilities that have to be provided, plus the all complicating situations that arise during an election, that all can be avoided if this would be done digitally. Plus the time that is consumed in counting the votes and delayed election results, everything would be a kind of happening in front of your eyes. So it would be a more transparent, a more time convenient kind of approach if this system works well and is started, right? So this was about ECI net. Now comes your US. Okay, so basically this news is about NATO. So US withdraws its tariff threat linked to Greenland, state that US and NATO have developed a framework for future agreement. What is NATO? North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Very, very important questions are made from NATO every year, right? So I think it should be gone through very importantly and without any kind of negligence. So what was its origin? It was originated in 1949 through North Atlantic Treaty, also known as Washington Treaty. Headquarters are in Brussels, Belgium. And what is its nature? It is a political and military alliance of 32 countries, right? 32 countries, important, from Europe and North America. Sweden is the latest member, very, very important. Then it operates on a principle of collective defense. It is basically in article number 5 of NATO that says that if any country attacks on one of the member, this is not an attack on only that particular member country. It is also considered an attack on NATO alliance, that is each and every country that has been part of the NATO, right? So this is their principle of defense. Next, coming to the government sanction over 10,000 kilometers of rural road across 6 states under PMGSY 4. So PMGSY 4 GSY, first it is launched by Ministry of Rural Development, not by Ministry of Highways or something linked with transport. It is with Ministry of Rural Development. This is very important to be memorized or to be taken care of. Then what is this type of? It is a centrally sponsored scheme. Now objective: provide all weather road connectivity to eligible unconnected rural habitation as poverty alleviation strategy, including construction, modernization of bridges along road alignments. So there are basically 4 phases, and 4th phase is going on, right? So this is about the news. Then comes your Terrawave Communication Network, or the Blue Origin, to deploy thousands of satellites for the Terrawave communication networks. So 5408 satellites that are spanning to the LEO, or the low Earth orbit, and medium Earth orbit, right? It provides symmetrical bandwidth through radio frequency and optical connectivity. First is the optical connectivity, transmits data using light pulses through fiber optic cables or free space rather than the electrical signal. So here the light pulses are basically used in optical connectivity. Then secondly, it relies on modulation of light waves to achieve high speed, high bandwidth and low latency information transfer. Target services strictly support enterprises, government, and data center clients, providing reliable connectivity for critical operations. So, this was about the blue region or the terrawave communication. Next, coming to your last news, that is the generalized scheme of preference. Now, the EU has extended the suspension of preferential trade benefits for India under generalized scheme of preferences. About EU's GSP, what is it? Introduced in 1971, a unilateral trade preference for poverty reduction by expanding exports to vulnerable countries, promoting sustainable development. Poverty reduction and sustainable developments are goal basically of GSP. Now, three tiers are there. First is general GSP, duty reduction on 66% tariff line for eligible developing countries, whichever is eligible, right? Then is GSP plus, zero duties on 66% tariff line for countries that implicate core human rights, labor, and sustainability conventions. Then comes your everything but arms. That everything means, yeah, this is only that weapons are excluded, and all the least developed countries, all the imports are duty free. Excess is there. So basically this can also be related to your decarbonization also, like sustainability occurs, sustainability is counted. So this is also environment friendly, as well as the labor laws are also counted in it. So this all was about the news that are of 23rd of January 2026, and hopefully we have covered all the important points of these news. So very thank you for attending the lecture, and you would also be provided with current affair lectures daily on this channel. Thank you so much. And if you want PDF of whole this material, you can click the link below. You'll get the free access to these PDFs. Thank you so much.